Greetings, fellow philatelist. You don't know me or us, or perhaps you do if you've seen some of my posts on the various groups on Facebook. I'm Chris McFetridge. I'm the owner of Brixton-Chrome, and I have spent the last decade curating and building what I think, or certainly hope is, a very special auction house. Um, One of the things that distinguishes me from other stamp dealers and other auctioneers is that I have put the hobby ahead of pure profit seeking. And in that respect, my main reason for being in business is actually to fund my philatelic research and publishing of information about stamps on my website. And to that end, what I do is I specialize in revolving areas each week. And so I run a 300 to 500 lot weekly auction. It closes at the same time every single week on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock or 11:30 p.m. Atlantic time. So in England, that's quite late. I've been considering splitting the auction into a couple of streams. One that closes at an earlier time to allow UK bidders a chance to bid early. But with the times the way they are right now, we do have proxy and automatic bidding in the same way as eBay or Hipstamp or any of those other websites. So if you're willing to leave proxy bids, the closing time's not really that big of an issue. Now, what distinguishes our auction from other auctions are a number of things. One, our stamps lots all start at $1. And everything proceeds in $1 increments regardless of where the bidding is at. Now that can be a little frustrating for people who lose a lot, simply by $1. But what it also means is that you have a chance to get in on the bidding without it climbing at too high a rate. The other thing that distinguishes our auctions is the specialty focus. So I'll show you that in a minute with the current week's auction, but basically we try to focus on just one or two areas every week. We're a Canadian firm, so one of our specialties is always Canada. But the other specialty will either be a Commonwealth specialty, or it'll be a foreign country from Europe or South America or Asia, or it'll be a group of countries. Or it might even be one issue. It just really depends on what we've been able to buy and what research, what areas we haven't done or covered yet, and our bidder base. But we try and delve into as much detail as we possibly can. We make frequent reference to specialist catalogs, as well as Scott. And there's no minimum bids. So, most of our material sells for between approximately 15 and 35% of catalog values, depending on how popular it is. So, even at the high end, you're able to secure quality stamps for much, much, much less than you would pay retail. And you get access to material at the lower catalog value ranges that the other auction houses just don't offer. I mean, most auction firms now have minimum lot sizes of around $150 or $200 a stamp. So, we don't have that. Our sweet spot is between about $5 and $50 a stamp. We grade everything extensively using our own grading scale, which I developed over a 40-year career. My scale is the only one that makes allowances for slight faults. I deduct points from the overall grade for faults depending on how severe they are, how visible they are from the front of the stamp. And typically a fault will drop a stamp a full grade or 2 or 3 grades depending on how severe it is. So it's mainly used as a way of valuing stamps that are less than perfect. This becomes very, very important uh, for classic material, because there are very few classic stamps that are very fine. I mean, Scott prices everything at very fine. But the reality is, if you're buying a large auction lot or you're going through a collection, and you're looking at the first 4 or 5 pages of an album, most of the stamps are not very fine. And so then you're left with a question, well, what are they worth? And what should I pay for them? And what's a reasonable price? And so when I'm doing my auctions and coming up with estimates, I adjust the catalog values to reflect the condition. And then, typically you'll bid, between 15 and 35% of those adjusted amounts. So, for example, if let's say I have a stamp from 1865 and it's got some short perfs and it's off center, and I grade it as very good, okay, which is 2 full grades below VF, and it catalogs $100 in Scott. Well, my typical rule of thumb is to reduce the catalog value by half for each drop in grade. So a very good stamp will, if it were listed in Scott, it would probably catalog, for a $100 VF stamp, it would catalog about 25. 50 for fine, 25 for very good. So what I'll do is estimate that stamp at 25, and then you as the bidder will give me anywhere from 15 to 35% of that 25. So, at the high end, that stamp will get about $8, which is realistic, which is what a stamp in that condition, that catalog value, is really worth. So that's a very important feature. We don't generally have buyer's premiums on material that is ours. We did start last year introducing a 15% buyer's fee for consignment lots only. And our reasoning behind that was to bring those lots into parity with the material that we own. Because every stamp has a particular overhead cost associated with processing it, and that cost doesn't change regardless of who owns the stamp. So what we were finding in the early years when we ran this business and we were charging only a modest commission to the seller is that we were often procrastinating on the processing of consignment material because it wasn't yielding us enough revenue to justify the expense of handling it. And that was particularly the case with lower catalog stamps that we were breaking down and lotting individually. So we introduced that on only the consignment lots in order to bring those into parity. Now we do show in our lot titles, next to the lot number, we will put a C in brackets when it's a consignment lot, so that you as the bidder will understand that it's a consignment and you can build that into your bidding as you go along. So the other thing is, we're not afraid to lot individually inexpensive stamps that have some special feature or something that we think our bidders would like. I've told a story many years ago of an absolutely perfect, gorgeous, sock on the nose cancel, perfectly centered stamp that cataloged 40 cents. But it was honestly the nicest example of this stamp I'd ever laid eyes on in 45 years of handling stamps. And so I lotted it because I knew that even if I only got $1 or $2 for it, somebody would appreciate the opportunity to own it. And it actually wound up selling for close to $40. So, we break the rules of philately, if you will, but we do it with love. We do it with a view to trying to help collectors build their collections. And we do it to try and further the hobby by publishing and documenting as much as we can about the stamps that we're selling. Now, I'm just going to show you a little tour of the website so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to take turn the camera around, take it off the tripod, and we'll see how this goes here. Okay, so I'm going to turn that light off. Okay, so this is our web page. This is our home page. As you can see, so got weekly stamp auction, retail listings, and there's an overview if you could scroll down. So here, this is click to view the auction. This browses the retail listings. At the top of the page, I've got a buy stamps menu. So here, this current auction, previous auction results, I post up to 2 weeks of results. Collections that you can buy. So there, that's a page I have for whole collections that are presented in such good detail, or they're presented so well that I don't really want to break them down, you know, especially if the albums and the write-ups and the pages are really nice. Stamps you can buy, so that's the retail listings. It's in its infancy now, but my plans over the next several months are to expand those. You can buy gift cards for relatives, so that's the gift cards. 2025 auction schedule. So here, on this page, I post what I'm going to be auctioning off each week. And I've got a Canadian theme and a foreign theme. And you can see I've got it posted. That was November 26th, so that was last week. It just finished. And I've got it planned for Canada all the way down to March 31st, 2027. And the foreign themes I've currently planned out to about May 17th of next year. And they can change a little bit as I go along, but that's tentatively what they are. So you can see what's coming up. And if you're looking at consigning or selling to us, that will tell you what we're looking for most immediately to include in our auctions. The Brian Carr collection, so that is the PDF of a large Canadian lifetime collection that we sold a couple of years ago. We preserved it for posterity so you could see what a really nice collection looks like. And then this link is to create your bidding account if you want to bid in the auction. And that's necessary if you want to place bids. The sell stamps menu, so I've done a whole area here to help guide you through the process of selling, starting with whether you should sell a collection you've inherited or not, how you should value a collection, some basic tips, and your different options for selling, and then finally what to do if you're selling to us. Then I've got a section on getting into stamp collecting, so I have a page on why I think stamps are cool, and then I've got getting started. So this is your first stop if you're a beginner, or if you have a child who's getting into the hobby, you want them to read these pages. The stamp school, so this is a series of topics, menus for intermediate and basic stamp knowledge. So I have a glossary of philatelic terms. I've got pages on detecting watermarks, measuring perforations, detecting fakes, alterations, and repairs, how to use a color key correctly and how to study color, how to study paper, and how to deal with fluorescence and tagging. And then finally, I've got a page for other websites and sort of other useful links. Then I have my blogs. So I've got 1, 2, 3 specialized blogs. I've got my own collection, and then 2 more blogs after that. And so these blogs contain detailed articles on various stamp topics. And they're very, very deep dives. Most of my blog articles took me up to a day to research and write. And there are thousands of words in most cases. So they are for specialized collectors who want to know everything that they can possibly find out about a particular issue. The About Us, so that has a description of our grading system, our business policies. The upcoming shows link is pretty much dead at the moment because I haven't attended shows in a couple of years now. I'm not really geared with the online auction to do shows, so I may remove that in the future. I haven't decided yet. And then I've got, this is the newest feature on my site, stamp issue tables. So what I've begun doing when I do a particular issue, and I am documenting paper types and shades and things, I now do a table, and you can see I've got many tables for the different Canadian stamps. And this is where I record the information about the different printings and paper types. And then all my descriptions in the auction will refer back to the table. And then finally, winter and fall stamp retreats. So we run a bed and breakfast here, and I got the idea this year. We normally close the B&B for the season at the end of October, but then I started to think that it would be nice to have retreats for stamp collectors who want to combine a vacation with working on their stamps. Like imagine being able to take your favorite issue of stamps with you to a quiet place where nobody's going to interrupt you, and you can have 2 or 3 solid days to just work on your collection and know that you're going to have, you know, 5-star meals and drinks and whatever else you need while you're here. So what I did was I came up with 2 retreats, a specialist retreat, which is what I just described, and a Discover the Hobby of Stamps retreat for new collectors. And that's a mini retreat, which is really a one-day seminar, luncheon type of thing where, you know, if you're wanting to introduce a grandchild or a beginner to the hobby, you bring them here. We'll go through and we'll tell them about all the basics that they need to know in starting a collection, how to handle stamps, how to soak them, uses of albums, stock books, hinges, mounts, everything that they would need to know to get started. And then we'll have a nice luncheon, a question and answer session, a little exhibit of the different ways they could collect or the different types of collections they could put together. And then we'll let them choose at the end of the retreat. They'll get their choice of a stock book or a used album, like an old world album, and a pair of tweezers, and maybe a pack of mounts or hinges if they're available. And they'll be able to take a packet of stamps with them. And so they'll be able to get started right away on their hobby. And so on this page, I've got some photos of the B&B and our cats, and you know, some of the surrounding areas in New Brunswick where we're located. And then I've got down here the dates of the retreat and the cost information. So that hasn't had, it's a brand new thing I've just introduced. And like I said, they're going to go through the fall, or through the winter, I should say, and the early spring. And so that's the website in a nutshell. So I hope you'll take a look at this, and that you'll look at potentially bidding with us. Actually, before I go, I forgot to show you the auction, so I'll do that now. So if we go to the current auction, so here it says current weekly auction closing Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. And you can see all the different lots. So this week it was the Edward VII issue of Great Britain. And as you can see, it's very extensive. And it's described and everything's graded, and it's really interesting. And I would check it out. If you're a serious collector of Edward VII, there's bound to be something in there for you. Anyway, thanks for watching, and enjoy your stamps. Always have fun with your stamps. Bye.